Okay, everyone, good morning. Got really bad feedback there again, guys. That's twice that's happened. That's my fault for being so excited about a new week. It's gone now, so we're all good. Hello, everyone. Take two. Lovely to have you with us. It's a big week. It's a proper Celtic week, this one. A Champions League game followed by a cup final. But we're only focused on the Champions League at this stage. Tony, you are in your normal place of recording, aren't you? You don't have a fancy location to tell us like a certain man.
No, not today, but as I said, after the aftermatch on Saturday, young man's first trip, he deserves it. So big up to young Ryan, as you can see, who's live from Zagreb. So hope
You're in Zagreb, Ryan. It's kind of not very obvious.
This is swankier than what I'm used to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm in Zagreb. I got there last night. Took 2 flights, one from Edinburgh to Amsterdam, and then the second one was a delayed flight from Amsterdam to Zagreb. So I got there. I got to my accommodation about 1 o'clock Zagreb time. So, a little bit tired, but at the same time, I think there's an excitement in the air. I'm sure I won't need to go far to find Celtic supporters in the next few hours, to be honest with you. There was plenty in the airport. There was plenty on the flight last night in Amsterdam. So, yeah, I think there's a bit of a buzz about the place, but it's only going to get even more buzzing, I think, as the days go on to this game. Obviously, playing tomorrow, but tonight, I'm sure it'll be a very busy city centre.
What's the temperature like this time of year in Zagreb? He's immediately going to his phone to tell us that's the modern
I've not
way.
been out the room yet. Right now it's 4 degrees, so it's pretty similar to Scotland, I would say. It just feels like another version of Scotland's weather, to be honest. But it's fine. I'm used to that. I wasn't expecting. I thought it would be a wee bit colder due to the fact that it's December. You're in Eastern Europe and it's cold, and it's at this time of year. But just looking at the temperature for the rest of today, it's the highest it's going to be is 4 degrees, then it'll drop to 3 degrees. So not too bad. I can deal with that. I'm used to the Scottish weather after all. So if it's similar, then even better for
it. Yeah, it's always just good to get a wee weather report, isn't it? So it's good to find that out. Morning, everyone. I've not even said hello to our wonderful viewers. I'm too preoccupied with Ryan's surroundings. Lovely to have you all with us, everyone. Get involved in the live chat. There's loads going on. Obviously, let us know what you're thinking ahead of tomorrow night's game. We have plenty to chat about. The weekend win as well. Job done on Saturday, Tony. I thought it was pretty good in terms of some of the stuff we played.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pick of the day was Kyogo's wonderful finish, and obviously Kasper Schmeichel doing Kasper Schmeichel things. But yeah, I said on Saturday, and I said to you off air, it was kind of the game that was in the road of the massive week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And players are human. Don't care what anybody says. We're human too. We were like, just get it out of the road, get the job done, get the 3 points, and then concentrate on a massive week, which will set you up in terms of your season. You win 3 points in the Champions League, you can more or less, cement a last 16 place, not a knockout, a playoff place, and then go and win that cup final, and you'll be cock a hoop come Sunday night if that turns out to be the case. But it's just huge in the context of Celtic season. It's huge in the context of the progression of this football team. And I think, as you said it there, this is a Celtic week, isn't it? This is what you live for. And these 2 matches coming up are these are the ones that you give you cold sweats. You wake up at night thinking about them, and you've dreamt of the scorer, you've dreamt something wonderful is going to happen, and you just feel that there's something special about this manager and this group of players, and you hope that comes to fruition this week. This is the week to do it, isn't it?
Does anyone out there think, and I'll open this up to you two, but there's only 2 of you, mainly to the thousands of people watching, does anyone think we're going to win both games this week? Does anyone genuinely think that's possible? Because I'd be lying if I said I wasn't dreaming of it, and I genuinely think we shouldn't write this Celtic team off from achieving anything at the moment. This could be, as good as we've been all season, this could be the week where we turn this season into a spectacular one.
think if you can stay unbeaten, I don't think anybody would complain at all. As long as you win the one at the weekend against Rangers in the League Cup final, that's the way it's going to be. You want to win against your greatest rivals, but I think if Celtic can get anything from this game tomorrow, then it'll be a bit of a bonus, especially with that Young Boys game coming up. That is the game that's been signposted as being the must-win. Everybody else is beating Young Boys at the moment, it feels like, in Europe. So Celtic will have that onus on them, especially at home, to go and do the business. But who's to say they can't go and get a win tomorrow? Zagreb are a team that are in a bit of a crisis at the moment. If you talk to anybody right now, they'll say that they're all over the place domestically. Hajduk Split are quite a bit clear at the top of the Croatian league. They had I think really the European adventures for them have been a bit of not a distraction, maybe a positive distraction for them, because it's taken away from their league form at the moment, and they've had some decent results after the opening day humiliation to Bayern Munich 9-2, which can obviously happen to anyone. Celtic get beat 7-1 off a German side as well, so that does happen. And at this level of the competition, you can get turned over, but they're a team that are not in good form at the moment, and Celtic have got to prey on that and really and use that to their advantage. I want to see Celtic come out with the same sort of performance that they did against RB Leipzig, where they can sense a team's weakness and they prey on that and they use that to their own advantage. I think they could get 2 wins this week. Not pretty easily, but if they play to their style and they play to the way that we know that they can play, then 2 wins, it can happen. But it would be a big ask. But at the same time, I would love to see it happen.
I think this is when you prove you're a good football team, Hamish. And if you're a good football team will win both of these matches. And I think Celtic are a good football team. Stopping short of saying they'll get 2 wins, but if you're a good football team will win both of these matches. And it's certainly there for them. It's there for the taking. And I think when it's been there for the taking, Celtic have actually grasped the nettle and the opportunities that have presented themselves. I never pay any attention to a European opposition being in disarray. I've heard all of that before so many times, and then they come out and they play like Brazil. So what will be whatever team they feel, don't really care about their form coming into this one. Celtic have a job to do, and I think they're well capable of doing a job both in Zagreb and at Hampden on Sunday. We'll focus on Hampden on Sunday later on in the week. First and foremost, you have a wonderful opportunity to make strides in Europe, which every Celtic supporter is desperate for this team to do. The manager craves it so much, and I think that's just the way you approach this. Go out and show you're a good football team. We were speaking to Joe Donnelly earlier this morning, and Joe said that in Europe this season we've had every kind of performance from a Celtic team. We've had the high of Leipzig, we've had the low of Dortmund, we've had the disappointment of Bruges, and we've had the battering of Bratislava, who proved that they weren't a good team at this level, and Celtic, steamroller them. So,
and defensive performance in Bergamo as well.
In Bergamo, so that's we've had every range of that, performing spectrum, which I thought was quite prescient and wise of Joe, which is why I mentioned it. So now's the time to, somewhere in between all of them, dredge up another decent performance and somehow eke a win or go out and win comfortably. If they can do that, it'd be great. But if they can win this football match, you'll feel brilliant on Wednesday morning if that's the case.
I think there's certainly an opportunity there for us to go and win the game. I firmly believe that, and we can discuss that a wee bit more in a minute. We don't have to win, though. We've got ourselves into a really good position here from our opening 5 matches, 8 points on the board. A draw is an acceptable result, certainly. A draw always for Celtic away from home in the Champions League is always going to be an acceptable result. Move us on to 9 points and know that you've got that Young Boys game where you effectively need a point to get to the 10 points. That's a thing I'd like us to avoid, is that Young Boys game becoming like a must win. Because as much as people might look at the league table, Young Boys are, along with Slovan Bratislava, probably the poorest team in the competition, and people might have that down as an easy home win. It won't be an easy home win, I don't think, if there's real pressure on us to win that game. I think, we've seen enough of Celtic in Europe to know that it might be tough that night. So I would really like to get to the position this midweek where that's not a must-win, that Young Boys game. Ideally, you find a way to win in Zagreb, and that Young Boys game just becomes a bonus, basically, to try and get as far up the table as possible, knowing that the top 24 is already secured. But I think worst-case scenario, you go and you get a draw this midweek, moves you on to 9 points, and you basically know you need another point from your final 2 games. And I think we'd all have signed up for that. So that's my thoughts, is that it's certainly not a must-win game. Zagreb might see it as a must-win game because their final games are away to Arsenal. Don't fancy them getting anything in that. And AC Milan go to Zagreb after that. And again, they need a win from their final 3 games, and they're probably looking at this as they will be looking at this as their best opportunity. We love Celtic, but when your other fixtures are Arsenal and Milan, you can see why they're feeling good, except they're not really feeling good, because I spoke to a Croatian journalist earlier on today, and I couldn't believe how down he was about Zagreb's current form. They've not won any of their last 5 games. They've only scored 3 goals across those 5 games. As Ryan says, they're now third in the HNL, the Croatian top league, which apparently is like Celtic being in third, basically, is what he was saying. But the other thing, I don't know if you guys have heard, they've got a bit of an injury crisis going on as well, and a really bad one from the sounds of things. And I know, again, everyone's going to be saying, we hear this all the time, but it does seem certainly like their captain's going to miss the game. Their first choice goalkeeper's going to miss the game. Bruno Petkovic, who's a Croatia international, is going to miss the game. I think one of their fullbacks is going to miss the game. Defender they signed from Ferencvaros is with the B team at the moment because he's fallen out with them all. The Spanish defender they signed in the summer is going to miss the game. So it seems like they're missing a hell of a lot of players for this game. Does that improve how you're feeling about things, Ryan?
I was pretty confident before, and hearing that, obviously you're buoyed by that, and you're like, right, they won't be playing a lot of the players that you would normally expect, but you've just got to assume that Zagreb will still be a good side and will up it in the Champions League. I was speaking to a Croatian journalist as well. I think it was somebody different to yourself, and he was saying it's the biggest game in Croatia's season, never mind Zagreb's season, because if Zagreb are to win this game and go through to the next round, then Hajduk Split all of a sudden have a chance of winning the league. Whereas if they don't, and they don't get through to the next round, then they'll put all of their focus on the Croatian league. And if Zagreb put all their focus on the Croatian league, then they'll go and win the league because they've got the most resources out of any of the Croatian teams. So it was quite funny that he was saying that everybody in Croatia will be supporting Zagreb in this game because, yes, for the coefficient points, but also for the fact that their eyes are elsewhere, whereas Hajduk Split will have the league to focus on because they're in first at the moment. I think the last time they won the league was something like 2004, 2005, he was saying. So this is a bit of a shock that's happening on the cards at the moment. But yeah, hearing about all of those players that are injured, I believe the Ferencvaros centre-back, is that Sami Mamai? His brother was linked with Celtic. I think he plays for Stoke City now. Yeah, he was the forward.
Brian May.
Up front. Yeah, I remember him. I remember his name quite. You remember these transfer rumours, and I remember he had a sibling that played for Ferencvaros as well. So yeah, it does sound as if they've got an injury crisis. You hear about second choice goalkeepers, you hear about injured fullbacks. You're like, maybe this is positions in which Celtic can take advantage of, but they're still Zagreb players at the end of the day. They'll be of a decent quality and a decent standard. And these players that come into the starting lineup, these could be the next generation. They might just thrust these players into the limelight just now, or the spotlight, whereas maybe they wouldn't have been ready for it. So it'll be interesting to see what team they go with tomorrow. I did read the names that were injured, but the replacements will come in will still be of a good quality, and they'll all be Champions League registered, so they won't be any mugs. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Long story short, there won't be any mugs, and Celtic have got to treat it as any other game. Yeah,
very tough game. Just looking at the results, Tony, so far, so they lost 9-2 to Bayern Munich. we can have a wee chuckle at that, but not really, because we were just about as bad in Dortmund. Match day 2, they draw 2-2 at home to AS Monaco. I think AS Monaco are near the top of the French league, doing very well in the Champions League. I think they beat Barcelona. So that's a good result. They then go to Salzburg and win 2-0. Pretty good result. Salzburg were down to 10 men, but they were already 1-0 up. They were already 1-0 up at that stage. They then go to Slovan Bratislava and win 4-1, which, is impressive. Slovan Bratislava clearly aren't great. We know that, but away from home. And then they lost 3-0 to Dortmund in their last game. So a bit of a mixed bag, a wee bit like ourselves, maybe.
Yeah. Listen, you always couch any game with 2 words: Celtic away. In Europe.
You're not wrong, Tony.
You know what I mean? It is. Celtic away in Europe are the Forrest Gump, aren't they? You don't know what you're going to get. And you've had everything this European Champions League phase so far. But again, lots of focus and attention is always on opponents, how good they are, their strength and depth, how weak they are. They've got players missing, they're in disarray. I'm always of the opinion Celtic have got good players. We're a good team. And if they produce and turn up on the night, then you're a match for anybody. This particular group of players I'm talking about. And they've grown into this competition. The Atalanta performance for me was a turning point of it all, where they actually showed they could go away and be disciplined and get a result. And we were all at the end saying we could have won that with a wee bit more bravery and a bit more composure in the final third. So that's what has impressed me most. The Leipzig game, where they did to Leipzig what many a team has done to Celtic at Celtic Park, that high press. And they produced a level of performance where the bar was set so high and you thought, great, you are learning, you're progressing. Again, the expectation was really high. Club Brugge game, and we were left disappointed. So, this is a real opportunity. These players, they don't need to be told about the magnitude of it. And I've just got a feeling they'll be in the zone and they are well capable of winning this game. I don't care who plays for them, personnel-wise. They'll be a good side. They're at home. And like everything else, this is, with those last 2 games they've got, Hamish and that league phase, they will see this as an opportunity as well. So Celtic are going to have to be at their best, be disciplined, be clinical when chances come along, and just produce a level of performance that, one, makes you all proud again, like Leipzig, like Atalanta, because it's there, and it's there in abundance when they put their mind to it and when they're all focused on the job. And they'll have been focused from the moment the final whistle blew against Hibs on Saturday. The manager will say, right, get in here, you switch on. You switched off a wee bit out there, fair enough, you got the job done, but before you leave this dressing room, you switch on for Tuesday night, and everything will be, the preparation will be as good as it can be. They're getting in the best of health, and there is no excuse not to perform at this level again on Tuesday night. That's basically what I'm saying.
I certainly think, that Atalanta game, the team showed something that we haven't seen ever from Celtic in the Champions League away from home. It was like a really strong defense first performance, and I was delighted. I think that result looks brilliant now. I think I was looking at Atalanta's recent record. I'm pretty sure they've won 12 out of their last 13 games, maybe more than that. And we're the only
right
team
up at the top of the table as well.
Yeah, in the Champions League, and they're top of Serie A. So that was a great defensive effort. I wanted a little bit more quality on the ball that night, and we clearly saw that in the home games afterwards, certainly the Leipzig game. So I think that's a big part of tomorrow. Can we be that defensively solid as we were in Bergamo? Clearly Zagreb aren't at the level of Atalanta, but then when we get the ball, can we really hurt them? Because that's the next step for Celtic away from home in Europe. K-Matsu saying Not a question, Celtic are a solid team in their day. Problem is Zagreb will have all the emotional and atmospheric advantages of playing at home. Celtic still haven't looked ruthless away. I think that's kind of what I'm saying in terms of with the ball. The counter-attacks haven't quite come off in either of the away matches we've played so far. The other thing I heard earlier about the game tomorrow night, and we'll wait and see if it's true or not, but it might not sell out the game. Which I found a bit interesting given that it's such a big game. But apparently that's just down to the way Zagreb are playing at the moment and the way they're being perceived at the moment. It's a funny old stadium as well, Ryan. You'll see it, but it's a pretty old stadium. I think one of the stands hasn't even been used because of an earthquake a couple of years ago.
Yeah, in 2020, I was actually looking that up as you were speaking because I knew that they have an interim capacity at the moment because they've not opened up the East Stand due to an earthquake that happened during the pandemic. It was around about the same time, which actually didn't help with social distancing as well, which is what I was reading. It did loads of damage to museums and stadiums and hospitals, but that whole stand, that whole East Stand, has not been open since 2020. So the fact is, they're working with a reduced capacity, and they still can't sell out their stadium. I think that kind of tells you where they are at the moment with their fans. You know, domestically, that's your bread and butter. And if you're not doing that, then you're going to feel that from the fans, especially a team like Zagreb, who are used to winning. They're used to winning the league every single season. They're dominant in Croatia, but they've not been dominant this season. And that'll obviously take a bit of a hit on the supporters, and they won't be happy with that. So they won't want to plough more money into Champions League tickets if they're not doing the business domestically. But I still think it'll be a decent attendance because it's a Champions League game. These games take care of themselves. It might not be a sellout, but I still expect it to be a good atmosphere. The fans that do turn up in their numbers, I think they'll make a bit of noise. The Celtic fans that are there will certainly make quite a bit of noise in and around the stadium, outside the stadium, in bars and pubs, and then in the stadium as well, in their small congregation. But yeah, it's a Champions League game. These games take care of themselves. I think the atmosphere will be good, regardless of the attendance tomorrow night. But I just hope that Celtic can play their own game. Just play their own game. Don't get involved in the atmosphere or the spectacle. Just play your own game. Don't think about Celtic away from home in Europe. Try and just get as many points as you can. If you can get the 3 points, brilliant. If you can only get a point, then it's an extra point on the road, and you can bring it back to Young Boys and hopefully get the win there. But you can really make this very easy for yourself by getting a win in Zagreb. If they were to get the 3 points and then allow that Young Boys game to not be a must-win, then I think everybody would be delighted with that. I think everybody doesn't want the likes of Aston Villa last game to be a must-win. You don't want to be going to Villa Park looking for a win, especially at the moment when it seems like they're back on form. So Celtic can make this very easy for themselves. Get a win away from home against Zagreb. First away win in the Champions League since Anderlecht back in 2017, I believe. So if they can do that, then they'd be breaking quite a few unwanted records, and then their points total would be pretty good as well. So that's got to be the aim. Let's see if Celtic can do it on the day.
McLaughlin P pointed out, and this is interesting, I'm just checking the dates. It might be a day out, but saying 10 years to the day since we lost 4-3 in Zagreb, it's wild the way things like that work out. That was a Europa League game. Can you name the Celtic goal scorers that night, guys?
Oof.
In fact,
was that the night of the fog?
No, I think that was Astra. It was the same tournament. I remember, I think we were already through the goal scorers. One was an own goal. You're never going to get it. So Chris Commons was one, and Stefan Skepovic, remember him?
Wow.
Was the other. The Zagreb scores. Yeah, Zagreb scorers are interesting. Marcelo Brozovic scored against us that night. Obviously went on to Inter Milan and now Saudi. And the guy who scored the hat-trick is a guy called, I'm trying to get his first name here, Marco Piazza.
He's at Zagreb. He's back.
Zagreb. Right. Yep. So he was at Zagreb, moved off to Juventus. Didn't quite work out. He's played for the likes of Schalke, Fiorentina. He's now back at Zagreb and will play tomorrow night. So that's an interesting wee scenario there as well, Tony.
I don't want to repeat the same scoreline, but yeah. Listen, it's
maybe the opposite way about.
Nah, you win a 7-goal threat. I mean, people always say, if you win something like 4-3, it was a great game. It's only a great game when you win. Don't tell me anybody's ever said, it was a 7-goal thriller, but we lost, but it was a great game. That's rubbish. Listen, take any kind of win. Don't care how it comes about. How good would it be to win this football match and then go into the young boys game and just, relax on it? And I think if Celtic can go in that frame of mind, they will produce against young boys as well, and the tally will be even higher, your points tally. So it's all about tomorrow night, just to focus on tomorrow night. Block Sunday out as well. That'll be there. It's not going anywhere. Tomorrow night's just huge in the context of Celtic season. It's huge in the context of what Brendan Rodgers is building with this football team. It's huge in the context of the progression at this level for this Celtic team. And the confidence surge and shot in the arm and boost these guys will get if they can win tomorrow night, it'll be incredible, because they'll all know that what the manager is teaching them is coming to fruition, and they are learning in this stage. And that's what you want for this group of players and this manager. You can see it, that it's tantalisingly close to being something special. You hesitate to say those kind of words, but you're looking at it and it's bubbling away under the surface. And these are the kind of places you have to go and win in order to prove yourself as a worthy team at this level and qualify for the top 24. Again, I go back to that's the carrot that's been dangled in front of the players. Go and grasp it. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. And as much as it's a mustn't lose, isn't it? Basically, a draw wouldn't be the end of the world. But if you can win this football match, go and win this football match and make it easy on yourself, and you'll feel a huge weight lifted off you, and we will go into the young boys game in that relaxed frame of mind. And it's the most important game of the Champions League phase for Celtic so far. People say it's the first one. It's nah, this is it, because this is a chance to really say, do you know what? We're here to compete, and we can compete, and we're going to compete in the next part of this competition. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing them, hopefully produce at this stage.
I've been so excited about the pace we have in our front line in these away Champions League games. Teams obviously domestically don't really come on to. I thought Hibs did a wee bit at the weekend, but generally they don't. But obviously in Europe it's a different story, and I've been thinking, for Dortmund away, Atalanta away, the pace of Kyogo, the pace of Maida, the pace of Kuhn running in behind, and it's not really happened in either of those games. It's been a bit of a strange one. Obviously Dortmund was just a complete scudding that night, to be honest, an off night, let's just say. And the game in Bergamo was, as I say, a really good defensive performance, and probably didn't carry enough of a threat going forward. Tomorrow night, I think, is a real opportunity to let's finally see that blistering counter-attack that we saw in pre-season against Chelsea and Manchester City, and was so excited about that. Those through balls, and I mean, they are so quick, and I really hope we see a bit of it tomorrow night, because I genuinely think we can be lethal when we do that, because we're such a quick counter-attacking team. And as I say, we've seen kind of isolated examples of that.
Yeah, I was thinking about all of the games that we've seen so far in the Champions League. Are we yet to see a crazy scoreline sort of game in terms of both teams scoring? A bit of a shootout between the two sides?
Dortmund was quite crazy for me, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, much like that 4-3 that we've been speaking about from 10 years ago, or near enough 10 years ago. You wouldn't put that past these two teams to have a bit of a firestorm between them tomorrow. Not that it'd be good for the heart or good for the instant analysis. It would have to be changing every 5 minutes or so. But
they've got 3 goals in 5 games, so they're not really scoring many at the moment. We obviously are.
This is Celtic away in Europe. As Tony says, anything can happen. Trust me, anything. But the big thing for me is that Celtic just take care of themselves on the night, play their own game, keep 11 men on the park. I've seen it too many times and away from home in Europe, where Celtic go a man down, and then all of a sudden you're fighting against yourselves as well as the opposition team. to make up the numbers, and that can be a problem. Keep it 11 men versus 11 men, because I strongly believe that Celtic have the better 11 between the two teams. So if that's the case, and you can keep it mathematically the same in terms of people on the pitch, then you'll get chances. Nicholas Kuhn will get chances. Dyson Maid will get chances on the break. Kyogo will get chances. If he takes chances like he did against Hibs at the weekend, then Celtic will be on to something, because that was a tremendous finish from Kyogo. You've got goals all over the park, as Tony talks about, that front six that Celtic have got that starts with the midfield, plus the defenders as well. They've been threatening goals recently too. Austin Trusty's getting that little bit closer every single time with his headers. What a perfect time it would be to sort of break his duck by scoring in Zagreb and making himself a bit of a hero. I know we'll probably talk about predicted lineups more tomorrow and this afternoon when the article comes out. But you've got to pick your strongest 11 for this game. It's the most important game. Get through in Europe, and then you can go into the Young Boys and Aston Villa game. Not with the same amount of pressure. Still pressure because it's Europe. But get the job done tonight or tomorrow, Celtic, and then you can worry about what happens then later.
I think if you win tomorrow night, I don't think there's much pressure on the Young Boys game. I think it just becomes an opportunity to, as I say, to get as far up the table as possible. But I think the minute you get to 10 points, I think that is the aim. 10 points, top 24, and we can do it tomorrow. What's your plans for today, Ryan? You press conferencing?
Yeah, so the press conference, I got the times this morning from the Zagreb press officer. So the Celtic press conference is at 6:30 Zagreb time. Zagreb's an hour ahead, so it's 5:30 Celtic time. The Zagreb one, I'll be going to that too, which is at 4 p.m. Celtic time or Scotland time. So 5 o'clock in Zagreb. So I'll be sort of looking around the city, doing a wee bit of sightseeing. Was it, sorry?
What time's that in Melbourne?
That's a question for Google, not for me. I'm not too sure. If you want me to go on my phone just now, I'll happily check. But it'll be a bit later for you, I would presume. So I'll do a bit of sightseeing, maybe speak to a couple of Celtic supporters. Not that I think I'll find quite a few in and around the city. Many will be entering today, I would presume, even though there was quite a few that were entering last night. The thing about Zagreb is it's not the biggest city in the world. It's a capital city, but it's not that big. And there's a tram system that works that kind of goes from north to south and vice versa. So it should be quite easy to navigate the city and find some Celtic supporters, maybe even some Zagreb supporters to speak to as well. That's the good thing as well. Apparently 75% of the population speak English as well. They get taught it from nursery onwards. So there shouldn't be any language barriers.
How good his English was.
I even listened to Vardiol at Man City at the moment. He spent a lot of his career in Croatia, sort of growing up. I know he went to the Red Bull teams, but his English is absolutely impeccable, as you would expect. It's just it's a great attitude to have over here. It's an attitude that I quite like to see in other countries as well in terms of learning the language, but I understand how important it is, especially for footballers, to know that second language, to know English. So I'm sure there won't be any problems with translation or sort of figuring out what people are saying. So yeah, looking forward to speaking to the locals, speaking to Celtic supporters that have made their way over. And yeah, it should be an exciting day, but an even more exciting day tomorrow because the main event is on.
Final comments, Tony, what are you thinking?
I'm just thinking I said earlier that weeks don't come any bigger than this, Hamish. There is no build-up needed. There is no team talk required, as they say. It's why you're a Celtic player. It's why you're the Celtic manager. It's why you're a Celtic supporter. You live for weeks like these in the next two games and the challenges that they present. First one up tomorrow in the greatest club competition and tournament on earth. What a chance. What an opportunity. Go and grasp it. That's all. You can make life so much easier for yourself in the final two games by winning and proving that you belong at this stage. This is what's missing now, that kind of away win tick that's vital and it's crucial and it's meaningful. And I think that's what Rodgers craves, it's what the players crave, and the three guys sitting on this screen alongside thousands of others all over the world, millions all over. That's what we want. Go and do it. It's there.
Yeah. Can't wait for it. As I say, still got another video tomorrow where we can react to the press conferences and properly chat about the game and our predicted 11s and all of that stuff. Ryan might have ventured actually out into the Zagreb air by that stage. Hopefully that's the case. So we'll catch up with you then. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that once again. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Lovely to have you with us at the start of what is a really big week, and we'll keep the chat coming. Speak to you all.